Okay, so we're back for our episode 5 now with special guest Josh the Preacher Hagen. Oh, Quayhagen. How do you say your name?
Yeah, Quayhagen.
Quayhagen?
Quayhagen.
Yeah, cool. Because
Yep.
sometimes you're never sure if the announcers are saying it right.
Mm.
Like for
So
me,
to be
like
honest, I'm not sure that they always have. So yeah.
well, because like
So it's all good.
my last name is a French name is in French you say Romary, but I kind of say Romary in English. And whenever
I call you Romary.
yeah, I get it.
So,
I get
yeah.
everything. I get everything. So, whenever they announce it, it's like it's Romary, it's Romary, like, and I'm like, whatever. Like,
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
what it is. So,
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
how, that's how I've
But
been my whole life, Shane.
yeah.
so
My wife when she got married to me, she's like, so how do you say your last name? I'm like, people say it different ways. She's like, well, I need to know if I'm going to use that name. So we agreed on Romary, but yeah,
Romary,
Romary.
because it's
The
romance.
Aussie version of Romary. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, Josh, enough about me.
Yeah.
Tell us about you, man. So current for anyone who doesn't know, but if they're listening to the show, I'm sure they do, current gold belt holder. It's been a pretty epic journey. You've had some great fights. How did you get into karate combat? Like what were you doing before karate combat? Obviously, karate. Tell us about like we noticed you've got like American karate. What is
Yeah.
American karate?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well,
That is the biggest question. What is American karate?
so I mean, what I would say it is. So I really, to be honest, I grew up in a kind of a Shotokan-based traditionalist form, even some Ishinryu. So I'll just kind of go through my backstory. My dad was a Navy brat, so he was traveling around different things with my grandfather and his family, and so he got his black belt in Okinawa Nishinryu form, and then they moved right after, and then he got his brown belt in Shotokan, and then they moved right after, and then he started doing some boxing. So by the time I came around and he was pretty versed in what you might call modern day MMA, honestly. And
Yeah.
so instead of kind of handpicking and saying, "Hey, I want to stay traditional to this form," he just kind of taught what he thought was the best application for what we want. So
Yeah.
really my style is called Kyokai-Do. It was the style that my dad formed, kind of based off what he had learned.
Kind of just like
But
amalgamated, like a freestyle karate kind of thing.
exactly. So to be honest, what I would say, I even evolved a little bit from there. So when I was a kid, I would grow up and would go compete at all these tournaments. And if you know much about karate, so you have your traditionalists like your WKF style tournaments, and then your what we call open style tournament,
Yeah.
karate open style.
Yeah, we've got that here too. Like,
So yeah, and they're very different. So to be honest, why I even started kind of calling my karate American karate, because I just kind of learned through the competition form what they were looking for, what they were trying to do, how I would win, when I'd lose, I'd make adjustments and change. After a while, I started seeing katas that I liked done by other forms, and
yeah,
I asked my dad if I could learn that. We'd video it, and I learned that. So even though it's pretty much all traditional, I spent most of the time in traditionalist style karate. WKF, it was the USK was the big one around here, which very similar 1 point techniques, but other than that, it was pretty similar to WKF style.
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
what I call, watching people around me, fight. When I grew up, there was a lot of great fighters around, and so I just watched and learned. So I call it American karate because I learned it from American karatekas.
Yeah,
A lot
right.
of the
Yeah,
things
fair
that I did, but it's really very traditional, very much Okinawan style karate. Man, a lot of the
So
same Okinawan style katas.
in your dojo, obviously when we see you compete, you're fighting the way you're fighting, but in your dojo, you do a lot of kata and that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we stick pretty traditionally to the form. A lot of Shotokan based katas, but also all the way through. In fact, I run most of the time a little bridge in a Korean karate taekwondo, they might call it. So I saw it from one of the black belts that was winning when I was a kid. And I was like, man, I want to do that kata. And turns out later on, I realized he was Korean karate or taekwondo. But I learned the kata. I really love the kata. So it was one of, so from there on, I was just kind of learning. I became a student of the game, really, because that's who my father was too. So he was teaching us boxing stuff when all the other karate kids were just doing karate. Back in a time where it was like you didn't do both. You weren't a boxer. You were either this or that. And so it
Yeah,
was really cool. Kind of set me up for later on. I did get into MMA. You asked how I found out about karate combat. I was doing MMA for a while. So quick little rundown of my story. So I played college football. I'm here in Louisiana.
Oh, okay, cool.
When I got done, I was kind of just got into the real world, the job market. I was working at a casino, and man, it's like, man, it's not it. I got to be doing something. So I got into MMA, fell in love with it. Really, to be honest, how hard it was. There's still a lot of grappling that I didn't know, and so I was just basically a sprawler and brawler type MMA guy. And so I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it professionally. I wanted to be a world champion. I wanted to be the best in the world. So around my area, there was no gym or no martial arts place that I thought was really good enough or they could facilitate what I wanted. So so I was either gonna have to move away or really start my own. So it was one of those two options. So I chose to start my own. I opened up my own business in 2011, fitness, martial arts, and MMA, and just got started, got rolling, and so ended up going pro. Had a pretty good pro career going. I was like 6-0 at one point, fighting for Bellator. Going good, man. And then people kind of got the book on me. You know, it was a lot of wrestling. I wasn't grappling quite as much. I didn't really have a jiu-jitsu instructor, so I was just trying to bring guys in and help me and grow in it. And I was still almost even at a high level pro, I was still a sprawler and brawler. You know, just trying to keep space and strike. And so I got to a place where MMA just it wasn't going so well. I wasn't getting able to get the ground that I wanted. I kind of started losing some fights, so I had to make a decision. Honestly, that's probably 2017, maybe 2017. I kind of had to make the decision that I was either going to have to step away from MMA and get the gym in order, or I was going to have to shut the gym down and go right into just basically full-time training. And so I made the decision to kind of put my career aside. I had a lot of people around me. The gym had grown. I had a lot of families, a lot of kids, karate. I just didn't want to shut it down. I felt like God was.
You don't want to let them down.
Yeah, and so I retired from MMA with the thought that, hey, I'm going to get this business in order and I'm going to get back to it. But so I stepped away from MMA, and that was 2017, and I just kind of focused in on the business, trying to build it, grow it. Me and my wife at that point kind of just dove in and really helped grow the business, get it back on track and get it going. And then 2018 comes, and I get a call from a buddy of mine I'd been doing karate with for years. And he said, man, you want to go to Budapest and fight in a full contact karate fight? So apparently he had been, so Adrian Galvani's fought a couple of times. They had asked him to fight from the WKF. They were pulling a lot of WKF guys. They were talking about it, and they were saying, hey, do you know anybody else? And so I competed karate my whole life, was still competing versus Adrian in a lot of the karate tournaments. But he knew I got into MMA, so he was like, man, let me ask this guy. So I just pretty much a friend called and said, hey, you want to go to Budapest?
You want to go to Budapest, you want to do a full contact karate tour? You're like, I'm there. Let's do it.
I'm in, dude. To be honest, it was like, you're joking, right? Because I mean, it
sounds like the start of a movie. You know, it sounds like the start of a movie.
Man, it is my movie, man. we get to Budapest, man, and I don't know nothing about it. And I got all these guys, these high level WKF guys that I, to be honest, don't know much about. You know, I remember IGF coming in and everybody being wild, and I've since researched and done it, but I was just doing my own thing. And he's the GOAT, man. And now I know, but I remember him walking in the first time and everybody being in awe, and I'm like, man, I don't know who that is.
Well, actually, that's how I got into karate combat, because Agev was in it.
Yeah. Well, I competed WKF for a long time for Australia, and every time I went to World Championships, Agev was in my division and he won.
He's a guy. He's a guy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's a GOAT.
Although Boost has beaten him a few times.
Yeah, when I was competing, he was unbeatable. He was unbeatable. Because I'm 40, so I look young. But
you do, yeah.
But tell us about your training. I was just talking. We were chatting a little bit beforehand off camera. You've got 3 girls. I'm having my 3rd girl soon in a couple of weeks. And I struggle honestly to train as much as I want to train. I've still got a day job. So you just doing you've just got the dojo? That's your full-time
That's full-time
job? Yeah, that's great. See, that's different, because you can train I know when you're teaching, you're not really training, but you're in the dojo, you're in the gym.
You're right.
It's a bit different, you know. Whereas for me, I'm going to work, I'm teaching at a school. There's only so many hours in the day, and it's difficult with family because obviously your competing is important. But how do you balance, you know, the family life? Because family's number one for me. You know,
Same. You know.
So
It's the same, and it is tricky. I just had my third girl. In fact, so really 5 weeks before my last fight with Rosha, I had my third girl. She was born, so I spent the whole training camp with a brand new baby in the house. And lucky, thankful for helping wives that do an amazing job. But you know, family is also super important to me. And then I was in love. I had my little baby girl, and I want to spend time with her. She's up at night, you know. I want to spend time with her, and it was brutal. It was a tough camp, probably tougher than any camp I've ever had, and that's including one where a hurricane wiped out my city, and I didn't even have a dojo. That was what I would call easier than having a training camp with a new baby girl.
Yeah, because it's the sleep. It's the sleep. I mean, for me anyway, with my first daughter, it's like I haven't had 8 hours straight without being woken up for like 4 years.
Mate,
that doesn't exist.
I've been sleeping 8 hours for years because I have one child who's 8. So yes, but you know, I stopped competing because one time I was fighting and my son yelled out, "Hey, Daddy!" I'm like, "Oh God, that's awful." So I'm like, that was it. That was my last tournament. So
it's tricky, man.
But obviously you got a very supportive wife.
I do. I couldn't do it without my wife. And done what I've done. But also too, I have little girls too. I have all 3 little girls, and so what's nice is I have 8, almost 4, and then obviously brand new girl.
Yeah.
And what's cool, what helps for me, and maybe some people might be a little different, but like my girls they don't know. They don't. I mean, I go compete and stuff. They're not paying attention. They don't know I'm Dad's a world champion. They want to paint my belt. They don't know what it is. They want to put
stickers on your face and put rainbows.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say that. Go ahead. I was just to say that's kind of helpful. I would say where it's I kind of almost have a little distraction from my training. I get to come in here and disappear in with my girls and kind of take everything away. And then I go back. Like you said, I have the gym and it is my full-time job. So teaching is not always training, but you can grow and you can learn. To be honest, I try to make my teaching training, you know.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's like if you're trying to work on something, you're trying to work on your kicks or something, you're like, okay, guys, we're learning kicks today.
That's exactly right.
So then it's a bit of a win-win, you know.
It is. But it's absolutely crazy, you know. And I think many times in life it's real easy to get into our comfort zone and say, man, I don't have the time to do this. And really that we have the time. I think we just got to put some other things aside. We got to prioritize what we want to do. And like you said, put that family first. And then, well, for me, you know, faith in my God is first, in my family, and then it's training right next to it. And I think the balance going back and forth has been helpful when you learn to have the right balance. But you gotta try to maximize your day. You can't. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to take away from a lot of the third, the fourth, the fifth most important things. You probably won't. I hadn't seen those in years, you know. So it's pretty much just family, business, and training lately. But
they do say the best ages for kids are between 0 and 5. Because my son is 8, and I miss when he was 2, 3, 4, 5, because they look up to you like you are old. Now my son looks at me. He trains as well. So he looks at me just like loser dad.
Well, I know how to do this card. Don't tell me how to turn.
Loser sensei. And he pretty much runs the dojo as well. He walks around like he's the king.
Yeah. Right on. You have your own dojo?
Yeah, that's where we're filming.
We're in there right now, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
that's my full-time job as well.
Nice.
So I know you would think that I'm making all this money with this podcast and YouTube show, but no, not yet.
No, yeah.
We wish.
Too. I know you. Yeah. I know you. I get it. Trust me, I get it.
Yeah, but just like this YouTube show, you have to you can't just, like, you've got the distraction with your family. When you're running a business, it doesn't matter if it's a karate dojo or, you know, running a Subway sandwich shop. You have to have a distraction. Otherwise you've got nothing. All you're focusing is your business. So this is why I do this YouTube show, because it gives me something else outside of the business and outside of karate.
It's easy to get into the kind of, you know, rat race of life and not enjoy the time that, you know, we've got here. So we've got to do things that we love, you know, whether it's competing, family, you know, obviously everyone's got to make a dollar and we've got to do our business, but we've got to do some
like back into like your MMA.
Yeah, like for me, you know, I'm 40 and I know I'm never going to be, you know, world champion UFC, but I want to do some MMA fights before I'm too old. Look, if they had karate combat here in Australia, that was like at a lower level, because I'm not at that level anymore. I'll be real. You know, if they'd had karate combat 10 years ago when I stopped competing at 30, I would have been all over it. But you know, now I'm not stupid. I don't know how it is. You know, so I just want to. It's something that people. I think people that don't do, especially at my work, you know, people that don't do martial arts, they're like, why are you doing that? Why you want to go in? You're going to get, you know, you're hurt. You know, I'm like, how can I get to the end of my life and not have done it? I would feel
unfulfilled.
Yeah. Like, you know, for me, you just have to do it. You know, like it's not even.
It's in us. I feel you. You know, and especially when you've had a little taste of martial arts. If you've been a martial artist, it's not something that you just do for a little while. You know, it is you.
It's lifelong.
And you know, and you don't necessarily have to always compete. But I think we need to challenge ourselves, and we need to get uncomfortable.
That's how you grow. Right? You step outside your comfort zone. And for me, like the WKF karate, I kind of got to where I was going to get to. And yeah, I could do that locally here and a few tournaments of that, but I don't feel like I'm going to grow anymore from that, because that's my comfort zone. But for me, as when you were saying, you know, when I started doing MMA at the start of last year, the first time I'm doing sparring, I just got taken down. I'm on the ground. They're just pounding me. I'm like, what the hell do I do down here on the ground? You know, I had no jiu-jitsu, no wrestling. And, you know, it's just been a journey up until now. And
nice to be a white belt again.
Exactly. It's great. And it's great. It's like you're finally learning. And that's where you develop the most, is when you step outside your comfort zone, you know? So, I mean, not just in karate and martial arts, but just in life, right? Yeah. So, yeah, but tell us about you were saying the number 2 hardest training camp. The number 1 was the baby. Number 2 hardest was the hurricane. Tell us about the hurricane, how that affected you. You lost your dojo?
Yeah, so lost my dojo, completely wiped out. Really, to be honest, 90% of our town, you know, so luckily my house was okay, but our whole city, not even city, but we call parish, province, it lost power for like 3 months.
3 months?
Oh, yeah. So we were like living in the we're refugees.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Seriously.
I wiped out
earlier this year, or was it last year?
2020. Yeah, 2020. So 2020, Laura, Hurricane Laura, it was the hardest, it was the most powerful hurricane to ever hit landfall in America. And we're right on the Gulf Coast, so we're basically the first opponent right in the land. And so we just took the brunt of the shot. It was right off of it. It ripped my dojo up. Luckily, our house made it, but again, it was unlivable. So we lived in a camper RV for about 2-3 months, or about probably not that long, probably about 6 weeks, and then finally we got generators back out to our house. And so, but for 2 months we were basically just, our whole city was just living in RVs, just rebuilding, redoing. There was couldn't drive around. There was no work. It was kind of crazy. It was almost an apocalyptic type feel, because you don't go to work. You don't. There's nothing.
Everything's closed.
Everything's closed. Most people didn't come back to town. We came back and started rebuilding, tarping roofs. You know, a lot of people needed help. So we just basically, life just changed for 2 months, and we were just working and tarping and roofing and cleaning and clearing for months. And it all happens to be while I'm training for a world championship fight.
Which fight was that? Which fight was that when that happened?
That was when it hit, I fought Serrata. So we did a 4-man qualifier to fight for the title. So there's 4 of us. So it was the semis.
Because I wanted
The
to ask.
semis that hit,
That makes
and,
sense.
and then to be honest, right after was the title fight, and that was the one that was the tougher one. So it was really the next 3-4 months without a dojo, without really a city to fight Jerome Brown in the title fight.
Yeah.
So,
okay, cool. Because we were wondering about, obviously karate combat's pretty new, and we were wondering about like how they decide when it's the title fight for the gold belt, because I mean now there's a gold belt, someone holds it, obviously whoever fights you next, that's the title fight. But at the start, I was wondering how they decided. So I didn't realize there was 4, and then it was kind of like a semi-finals, and then that was always the case. There was always going to be, out of those 4, that was always going to be the gold belt.
Yeah, at a point. So to be honest, when I got into it and that first Budapest trip, I fell in love. I knew it was it's what I wanted to do. I felt like I was going to be the world champion.
You found that place. Yeah.
It was my call. I felt like it was almost my God's gift back to me after me being a little bit selfless and putting my own self. That's the way I felt. That was my journey. Like I said, but then going forward, I lost my first fight after that. I went in overconfident. I took a fight on like a week notice, and I just went in overconfident, getting knocked out, and then I was just kind of floored. And so that was in Miami. Abdallah Ibrahim. So I get floored and kind of I get to this place where, man, I was like, man, I got to make this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pour everything I got in it. And so I fight and I win, and I fight and so I fight and I win, and then Ibrahim fights Dionisio, and so and Dionisio beats him, close decision, but Dionisio beats him. So of course I wanted to go get the rematch, but then I was like, no, Dionisio's the best. So I asked to fight him. He's the guy. So I asked to fight him, and I beat him. So at this point, I'm 2-1, and I'm talking to the management, and I said, hey, what's the deal with the title? I know y'all are talking about it. And they said, well, we got 2 guys that are undefeated. We think we're going to put them in it. And so I was like, no, you don't want to do that. They're not ready. So I convinced them to do a 4-man tournament. I said, you need to do.
Oh, nice one. That's cool. Nice one.
That's awesome.
I was like, man, you need to put four of us in, and then the 2 winners will fight. And later on it comes in, so they didn't give it. It didn't seem like they gave it much thought at that point. But then later on, they call back and they say they're going to do it. So they do the 4-man thing, and I end up kind of almost willing my way back into the conversation, and then winning the belt. So that's kind of how it went down.
That's cool. So every time you fight now, does that mean the person's challenging for that?
The belt's up for grabs, right? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and that's, to be honest, and I'm sure every champions have different things, but so so they're challenging for the belt, but I like to always say it's new, so I got it. I won it twice, but you can say I'm the champ. Of course, they got to come beat me to win it, but man, anytime they're fighting, man, they put that gold. I wear a gold belt, but man, I'm just like in a black belt like them. It's just brand new for me. So I'm not. They ain't trying to take something from me. I'm trying to take something from them.
That's the attitude you have to take.
You can buy the gold belt too on karate.com.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you seen that? It's
quite expensive, right?
$2,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. What?
Yeah, pretty gnarly. That's the the cloth belt too. Not the gold strap, like the shiny one, the one we actually wear. Yeah.
The real one.
So, yeah. Which I love. Which, as a martial artist, I think is way cooler than the gold.
I think it's well. Look, I think I actually like that they have the gold belt.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. It's original.
I like it.
You get to take it home.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I got it. I carry it with me in my book
at all times.
Yeah.
Mate, you should put yours on.
Someone pulls in front of me at the tries to cut him off.
So now I have 2. Now I have 2 because because the defense. So maybe I'll sell one. And
really?
$1,900.
Actually, I meant to ask you. So obviously, normally now, if you're fighting, obviously anyone who's fighting you is for the belt. But the fight where both of you, so you fought
Louis,
the gold belt holder from the division below you. right?
Yep.
Like the weight division below you. What brought that fight about, and how did you guys obviously there's a weight division, so what did you guys both kind of, you had to lose weight,
So
cut
we,
weight for that, and he had to put on weight, or like how does that work?
Yeah, so the weight class I'm the 75 kilos champ, and he was the 67 kilos champ. And so he wanted to be the double champ. So he after he won, beat Screevers, who I also thought was the best in the league. I thought, it was even talk. I had even mentioned about going down and fighting there. I just I don't know.
Screevers was the first one that
fight.
lost. He's the first one to lose it, though, right? Yeah.
And so after Rocha beat him, he basically called me out and said he wanted to move up and fight for my belt. And so I had already mentioned my opponent for the next card had dropped out. He was Russian, and so because of the war, they couldn't get him in town.
He pulled out,
Couldn't get him in, visas and stuff. And so I brought up fighting down, and then he comes up online and wants to fight. So he starts kind of promoting it big and gets all Brazil on it, and so that to be the double champion. And so I was like, man, well, you haven't even defended yet. So if you want to fight me, how about I come down and fight you in your weight class? Why don't you defend the belt before you?
Yeah, because you defend exactly.
Yeah, I had defended. And so, long story short, Karate Combat decided to, instead of any champion losing their belt, we just met in the middle. So it's 71 kilos. So nobody loses their belt. They just called it a grand champion fight.
It's like an exhibition match, essentially.
Yeah,
it's not the belt's not on the line.
That match could have gone. It could have gone either way. Like I think the first round.
Honestly, if it'd gone another round, you wouldn't want it.
Yeah,
in my opinion, 100%. The first, I can't remember now because it's a little bit a while ago, but you just started too slow. Too slow.
Yeah. The first,
I'm not telling you what to do because you're the man.
But, it's okay.
But the first couple of rounds, it was like, and then you took steam, and by the fifth round, it was like, you were just killing him. And if it'd gone to a sixth round,
which it could have.
To be honest, I didn't think there was a couple of rounds. It could have gone to a sixth round.
It was the first round. It was the first round that could have gone either way. Second and third, I thought was his, and you had the fourth and fifth. But first round, I couldn't see that he was a definite winner.
And I was surprised because my close friend, the Aussie that fought, Matthew Stevenson, he told me that because his fight went to the fourth round, and he said at the end of the 3 rounds or 5 rounds for your championship fight, but at the end of the rounds, it doesn't have to be exactly equal points. It just the referees just have to tick a box to say, is it close enough that we want to see another fight? And if the majority of the referees tick that box, it's another round. Is that right? Because I thought I assumed it had to be exactly.
If it's not a unanimous, if it's not, I believe if it's not a unanimous decision, then they would go to each judge and they say, hey, do you think it's close enough for another round? And so I just thought that was kind of strange. So one of them voted yes, the other 2 voted no. And I felt like I had seen some go to the 4th round, and I didn't feel like they were as close as that. So I just really felt like they missed the boat. I feel like they missed the boat.
I mean, look,
but it's okay.
It is, it is what it is. But definitely watching it, and I'm not just saying this because we're interviewing you and we're talking on we're talking on chat.
We did talk about this earlier.
We talked about this way before we even thought about doing this show, and I was like, really, they didn't go for an extra round? Like it seemed close enough to do an extra round,
especially as an exhibition match. There's no
belt on the line.
Yeah, they should have just gone.
Yeah,
and you would have won it.
So, but
and I know I would have. He knows.
No, if it was extra round, you would have won for sure. Because that 5th round, like you could feel it. You could feel it. You know what I mean? Like you feel it going like that.
Yeah.
He was running out of steam for sure.
Even 15 more seconds, I think, would have been fine.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. He's great. Like I said, he went up 4 kilos too, so he moved up. So no.
So how much weight did you have to lose for that?
So 75 kilos I usually fight. So 71 is where I fought. But I'm not very big for 75 kilo division. I walk around probably 77. So it really wasn't too bad.
It wasn't the worst.
I cut way more in MMA.
Yeah.
Do what?
It wasn't like an epic weight cut. It was
No, not at
it
all.
was all right.
No, yeah. So yeah, MMA, I would have cut a lot more weight trying to deal with wrestlers and stuff. But that's what I love about karate combat. I can fight pretty close to weight. I don't have to deal with somebody trying to get somebody off of me.
What's the most you've cut for MMA? What's the biggest cut you've ever done?
So I'd walk around about 85, and I cut to 55 as in MMA. So that's
What?
Are we talking kilos?
So yeah, no,
You cut 30 kilos?
No, not kilos. So 185 pounds.
Oh,
185 pounds.
I was like,
only use kilos because karate combat does.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
pounds.
You're in America. That's all right.
Okay.
I was having a heart attack. So 185. So 185. That's like I think
So
that's
it's
like
about 13 kilos.
80, was it 88 kilos?
no, it's like 84, something like that.
Is it?
177 is 77 kilos, isn't it? 177. I don't know. Pounds.
I'm not sure, mate.
The maths of it all. But yeah, so
You're a math teacher.
yeah, but pounds, inches, feet. I just metric system, man.
It would have been about 13 kilos, 13 or 14 kilos.
Yeah.
And did you feel wrecked after it, or you were right?
So to be honest, there's times where I felt. So that's what I love about karate. As long as I just didn't have a grappler wrestler, when I would make that big cut, I remember one fight I was pretty dead leg, and I just right from the start. But so all I did is just create a big range and I counterpunched. I ended up winning the fight. I fought slower because I could create the range and he couldn't get in. So it wasn't the pressure that I would have normally created. But I had karate range and I could counterpunch, and I won because of that. And then sometimes I felt good, and I was pretty much like I would do now, a kind of high paced pressure style. So it would affect different things, but that's really what I love. Outside of you need to be able to wrestle and grapple in MMA now for sure. It's the top of the line. But I believe for striking wise, when you can apply the boxing and the kickboxing, man, I think karate is the hardest to deal with. You have the most dynamic weapons. You can game plan a fighter, especially if it's just striking. So my first pro fight, I fought Cosmo Alexander, who has not been beat since that fight. He's a professional Muay Thai guy. So Bellator calling around. That's how I got linked up with Bellator. They're calling around. They're like, hey, we're trying to find somebody who wants to fight Cosmo Alexander, who's not going to take him down and submit him. He's coming from world-class Muay Thai. And so nobody wants to fight him, obviously, that's just going to strike with him. Well, I did. And I remember I was talking to pretty much like you guys were before the fight. I was just talking to you, the commentators, and they're asking me, trying to get some info about the fight. And they're like, all right, so what's your game plan? Are you going to shoot the single, shoot the double? And I'm like, I'm going to strike with him. I'm going to outrange him. I'm going to strike him. And they're like, look at me, and they're like, no, seriously, you can tell us the truth. We're not going to.
We won't tell it. We won't tell it.
We're not telling anybody. But I was like, no, seriously, I'm going to strike with him. He's spent, his whole life fighting somebody, in a closet, so to speak, somebody right in front of him. He's the best like that, right there close. But he ain't never fought somebody as far, and I'm not going to stand in front of him. I'm not going to let him hit me, because of the karate, I'd spent my life fighting at a different range, and then that was the game. Hey, look, go in and keep my range and not let him get his range, and end up winning the fight because of it. And so, I think karate does give you a big advantage. That's why I love karate combat too, because you get to throw your stuff. So where in karate, in MMA, it had to be pretty simple, even though it was range and controlling the distance. It still was, I couldn't throw any big kicks. I couldn't put too much together because at any point they could level change and catch it. So it's just ones and twos a lot of times.
That's what I'm doing. Like when I started doing MMA, I realized it was funny because when I was doing WKF, I was never a kicker. I was always like in close doing throws because I was short for my division. I come over the hands and then go for throws. And when I started doing MMA, I realized my throws are actually pretty crap, but my kicks are amazing. And my distance, I can just stay back. I just do a kick, boom, boom, just do a 1-2, move. And the guys, everyone's used to like in MMA, it's more of a Muay Thai kind of distance, a bit closer. And they're like, I can't even jab you. I'm like, because you're not moving your feet. That footwork of karate is they find it so elusive.
Well, if you look at it, karate doesn't have a jab. our jab or front fist is a knockout punch.
Mm.
You know, it's all in, bang. It's because the distance is different. We don't sit there and jab.
It's not just a little tap.
It's not a tap. Yeah, it's meant to be a knockout punch, but you know, can't do it every time. Well, I can, but
kind of what I like, a little thing about it too, just kind of like you're talking about. So it's the same thing, you know, when I was in MMA, I was just using karate range, you know, because these guys hadn't seen it, you know, create the distance, movement. Then when I got into karate combat, I had spent so much time in full contact. So then I just switched the game. So I know these guys were great at range. So then I just pressed the pocket and pressured them to death. So I used what I learned in MMA to win in karate. And then
well, you kind of always want to be like the different, the thing that people aren't used to, right?
That's right.
So you got to find like what to be compared to what everyone else is used to be to fighting. Because you like to pressure, you know. But that's against.
And that was never
karate
the
fighters.
case in MMA.
Oh, really?
I get taken down like that in MMA, so I would never be able to do that. So it's really cool to get to like, oh, cool! I get to be a pressure fighter now.
It's a completely different game.
Yeah,
that's why I like doing MMA, because for me it's a completely different game. Suddenly I'm a kicker. You know, I was never a kicker in karate because my kicks weren't as good as other people. But now it's like they I go there like, oh, his kicks are so good. Yeah, I'm like, so no, it's fun to switch it up. And I hear.
So Josh, if you look at Scrivers, he doesn't fight like a karate combat. You know, he's moving forward. But he did get knocked out his last match. Maybe too much forward for him. So how do you balance that aggressive forward and the footwork of karate combat?
I think you just hit it right on the head. I think you know, talking about this the Scrivers Rocha fight. I think Scrivers did all the work for him. Rocha's great at planting his feet and counter punching, and Scrivers kind of moved right into it. And that's what he planned for. And to be honest, he thought he was going to do the same thing to me. That's why the first rounds were so slow. He was talking about knocking me out in the first 2 rounds. So I know he's a counter puncher. I'm just not going to move forward into him. I'm not going to do all the work for you. I'm going to force you to come to me. And that's kind of where the slowness came in the first round, where he was still tired because he was uncomfortable. But I, like I said, that was the fight where I had my brand new baby. And so I was dealing with a little bit of I'm sure I hadn't talked about it much, but a little bit of nagging injuries, and things were pretty off in terms of no sleep throughout a camp.
Brand new baby.
So,
did you say nagging injuries or nagging wife? It better be injuries.
My wife.
That's why it's nagging injuries.
Oh, your wife was there. Definitely injuries.
Yeah, not the wife. So definitely the injuries. And she's close. She's in the next room. So
that's the hardest part. That's why, you know, I was at training today, and you know, we're fighting, and then I'm like, man, I gotta go. It's 5:30. I gotta get out of here. I can't talk to her. And they're like, no. I'm like, man, if I'm late, the hardest fight is in the cage. The hardest fight is when I get home. I gotta get home on time. That's it.
We might have to edit this part,
it'd be cool.
But, so back to your Scrivers fight. Back to your Rocha fight. So what is hard is you don't know how the referees or the judges are going to interpret, because you have a game plan, and unless they can see or know your game plan, maybe they don't really understand the intricacies of the match.
Yeah, so I would say, to be honest, I'll get into some philosophy too, because I have a fight team now too. So we talk about the fight underneath the fight a lot, and so you have to be conscious of both. So, for example, so if me and somebody are fighting and they hit me clean 3 or 4 times in the beginning of the fight, well, if you're watching the fight or you're judging the fight, you see that person is winning. But if that person hit me as hard as they could and hit their spot and did exactly like you're supposed to, and I'm marching to them and I'm smiling, underneath the fight, they're shitting. I don't know if so they're freaking out a little bit. There's a whole different
because they're like, I hit him with my best hit.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
Yeah, here and so there even in you have to be conscious of both. So as a martial artist, we're in tuned a lot of times to that fight underneath the fight, and we have to also be especially if you don't get the finish, knowing that the judges do play a part if it goes to the distance. You have to be conscious of how it's perceived and how it's looked, and that's where you got to have a good corner. You know, even in my last fight, my corners were telling me, "Hey, I had to go. It was probably down 0-2 in the third, and starting to trying to pick it up, and I didn't quite do it in time. So I knew in fourth and fifth it was turn it up all the way. But you just got to be conscious of both. And even and to be honest, I was confident the entire fight with Rocha. I felt his uncomfortableness. I knew he was being hesitant when he wanted to throw. He wouldn't throw. I could feel me zapping his energy. I could feel everything going to plan. But I still just lost a little bit of consciousness of the fight outside the fight and what was being scored. And to be honest, you're not planning to finish him also. So, but it just happens. You got to be conscious. You got to be aware. You got to have a good corner.
I think when that's right. It's about the corner, because when you're actually in the fight, you're more aware of the fight beneath the fight than the referees, because you're in the moment. It's you and this person, and you're both aware of each other so intensely. You kind of, I don't want to say forget about the fact that it's refereed and there's crowd over, but you kind of do. You kind of forget about it because you're here, you're right here, and that's why it's you feel like that punch, it wasn't that good, like it didn't hurt me, but you need the corner to tell you like, hey, actually this is what everyone else is seeing, because they're not in that moment. They're seeing it from out here. So that's a really I haven't heard that expression, fight beneath the fight. Is that what he's called it? Fight beneath the fight? Fight underneath the fight. But I really like that, because I 100% know what you mean. 100%.
Yeah.
What about how do the fighters get along? Do you know each other before?
I've never been in an organization where there's so much respect and cool. It is absolutely the best. Fight Bellator, legacy, a lot of MMA shows, a lot of ego, a lot of pride, man. And I think this is something special just because of the martial arts fact. These are black belts. These are people that have spent their life.
It's more traditional,
not legitimate karate.
Not just learning how to fight, but learning the art, learning how discipline, learning the process of And so, man, it's absolutely the best. Of course, you got your guys that are maybe sometimes they're a little bit more standoffish, and some guys that use the frustrate or the hey, I'm gonna get you, using that to try to build their mindset up. So there's gonna be some build up and maybe even some fakeness in there too. But man, I've never been in an organization where it's just so
much
cool,
respect,
where everybody is just, man, a lot of respect. Heck, sometimes, most of the time, they don't want to speak the same language as you, man. And you feel the respect. Everybody's,
that's
and
awesome.
it is the best organization I've ever competed in. I love it, especially because of the martial artists, the guys competing, even the guys I'm competing against, man. I would say that, and if you've done any martial arts or any kid training, you'll never make a friend faster than 5 or 10 minutes of beating the crap out of each other. I
mean, my best man at my wedding, we used to fight obviously different weight divisions because we both wanted to represent Australia, but we beat the shit out of each other many times, and that's how we became best friends. That's mutual respect, because you know what is with those people, like when I go back to, because I'm living in Brisbane now with Cheyne, but back in Melbourne, when I used to compete karate.
No, we don't live together. He just lives in Brisbane.
That crew of guys where we used to train and really go hard against each other in training, because we're all trying to become a world champion. Because you have that fight underneath the fight in the dojo, right? In the dojo with each other, you really know each other. You really know, like, this guy's not going to back down. He will take a punch. He will. You really get to know somebody when you fight them. And when you fight them over and over again, you develop that respect, because you both know that you both kind of really know the other person. Like them in here.
And even so too, what you change each other too. Like you. It's just one thing to get punched in the face, but as a martial artist, to be honest, we have to learn to appreciate it too, because that's where we get to fix. We get to and so when you get in there in that intimate, there's nothing more intimate, I think, than those battles like that, when you really kind of get into that vulnerable place where you're thinking, man, I could get knocked out. You kind of go through and then you overcome it. It's almost like you're both overcoming something together at times. You're learning things together at times. I mean, that's what it takes. That's why, guys get so close in boot camp or teams that travel and they work their butt off. When you go through that struggle together, there's just something that bonds you.
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
Do you have anybody coming up in your dojo as a next fighter?
So I have quite a few. I have a good MMA team. But I have my little brother. Potentially not potentially. He's about to test for his black belt, and then we're gonna get him into karate combat. We've already kind of talked to him, kind of laid out the groundwork for it. So yeah. So my little brother who normally corners me.
What's his name?
Elijah.
Okay, cool.
Different weight division.
Watch out for him, guys. Watch out.
Yeah. He's lighter. He's in the weight class below. But yeah, definitely watch out for him. He usually got a mullet. He'll be easy to spot. We're South Louisiana, a little coon ass redneck, you might call us type. But he's a fun guy. He's a good fighter too, and he's fought MMA for me too. He's fought karate for a long time, competed and won some pretty good high level karate tournaments too. And so yeah, I'm excited about getting him into it, and I think that'll probably be my transition out. Probably as I'm.
Has he got a nickname, or is he going to be Preacher Junior, or what?
No, he's probably not Preacher. So they call him the Mullet Man in MMA. I don't know if that's going to go with the karate combat nicknames, but so who knows what he'll be? He could probably be a lot of things.
Because how old are you? How old are you and him?
So I'm 36 and he's 27.
Okay, so a bit of a difference. So you're thinking maybe a couple more years, do you reckon, or how much
maybe
more
so. So I got now for me. I got a few fights that I want. You got your Aga. Yes, we talked about the GOAT, and then I got Raymond Daniels now. In my division too. To be honest, I want to fight those two guys, and then I might not. That's all I really want. Now I'm not saying that I'm going to demand those two next, but I want to.
You want those guys?
I want those two guys, and then I don't know. I don't see much else that. Like
then
say,
you'd be happy to. Yeah, I mean, you can't do it forever.
Yeah.
Have you got your brother coming up?
Yeah, so I've been doing full contact since about 2009. So, after so many punches in the head, I'm trying to be smart. I do love it. So I definitely I'd like to hang around and get IGF. Try to check out the two GOATs in my division.
So we can make it happen.
Well, I'm looking forward to the fight already.
Yeah, I'm pumped about it. And then so I met Raymond Daniels the last event, and the same thing. He's obviously that sport karate. And when a guy like GSP calls you potentially the best striker in the world, that's why I'm here. I wanted to fight the best. I wanted to. I love what it makes me become. How it makes me train. Win or lose. That's what I want. That's why I got here. So I like to say I'm not here for a long time. I'm just here for a good time. I want all the GOATs that we can possibly get into the pit with me. I want to
bring the GOATs, guys.
Yeah. That'd be cool. So, well, one of my students here, his family is friends with Agev's family.
Nice.
So I can ask him, put the call out.
And then, to be honest,
hey man, Agev might listen to this podcast / YouTube show. He's probably a big fan. He's probably a subscriber.
I'm sure Agayef tunes in regularly to this podcast. Yeah. So, but and to be honest, I've met him once. So that first trip boot camp, I really like him. Really cool guy. Obviously, when somebody is that high level at something, you're either running from them or that's the type of guy. And it's just in my nature to be like, hey, look, I just want to go. I want to go see. And I got the belt, and I know he's in the division. I know he's not a guy that is just I want to partake. I know he wants to be the champion. That's his mindset. That's his goal. So I assume that I'm on his radar too. So I assume.
But you relish the challenge. As we talked about.
I really do.
You're here for a good time. So
that's what gets me up in the morning outside of a crying baby.
Yeah, awesome.
That's not in the morning. That's just all night. Every
Yeah,
couple of
yeah,
hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah,
I've
it's
forgotten about it. It's
good.
been so long.
Oh man,
It's great.
it's just my life right now.
Well, look,
Yeah.
Talk
Josh,
about crying babies. I gotta get some sleep
yeah,
tonight. So.
thanks for coming on, mate. And
Yeah,
you
man,
just
enjoyed
started
it,
the
guys.
day. We're just about to finish
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah, but no, it's been awesome chatting with you, man. Yeah, like, obviously watched all your fights and good to just have a casual chat and
Yeah, right on.
talk to you
Enjoyed it.
on a level and I got some things to think about myself after that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So are you gonna have another fight this year?
So they asked me to fight December. It looks like I'm still trying to shake back for some injuries from the last camp, really. And so probably not December. Probably the first fight of the next year is the goal, the projected date. But get healed fast, and all of a sudden you might just see me in December.
Yeah,
So,
awesome, bro.
All right, we'll look forward
I
to
say
it.
that quietly because again, my wife's in the other room.
Yeah.
I know.
Talking
It's
about
how it
It's
is.
always, mate.
I know how it is, brother.
Just
Trust me.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Josh. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks a lot, man. We'll
Later, guys.
we'll look forward to your next fight.
Yeah, enjoyed it, guys. Later,
Cheers.
brother.
Thanks, brother.